Hi, Tess. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here with us.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you. I mean, if you want to introduce yourself, it's fine. But I have your profile here too.
Whichever you prefer. I'm happy to introduce myself.
That's perfect. I prefer. Thank you so much.
Will I be able to share my screen?
Yes, sure. I think to ask to share.
Let's see if I. Yeah, it looks like it'll work. Perfect.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
all right. Yeah. Do you want to get started then?
Yeah. Oh.
All right. Yeah, so my name is Tess Surprenant, and I am I work with Career Services here at UMKC. My regular job is as the director of the Block Career Center, but I am also the interim director for UMKC Career Services, which is the main office that serves most of the students here. And I've been here at UMKC for just over 5 years doing career services, but I've been working in career services for about 17 years. I was at the University of Minnesota for a long time and had worked at both the engineering program as well as the business school there. So yeah, so I thought that I would cover some tips for job searching and internship searching. And then I just wanted to do a quick introduction of a new product that we'll be launching next month, specifically for our international students here at UMKC. And I'm so excited about this because I think it'll really help out a lot. So does that sound good?
Yeah, all yours.
All right, I'm going to share my screen because, and I apologize, I know you guys must just get so sick of PowerPoint presentations, but here's another one. So let me just get my screen up. And so I think hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
So just a quick overview of career services here at UMKC. I'm advancing the wrong one. So UMKC actually has 3 career centers to serve the students here. And the 2 that most students are going to interact with are the main career services located in Atterbury Hall. And this is for the majority of the students, really anybody except Block School of Management students and the law school students. And here, we do coaching and we organize career fairs and workshops and all of those things. And then we also have the handshake platform, which is where you can go to look for jobs and internships, look for events and programs, as well as schedule appointments. Then there's the Block School Career Center, which is the Block Career Center. And pretty much we do the same sort of things. We also use handshake at the Block Career Center. And then finally, there's the Law School's Career Services office, which is located in the law building at the corner of 52nd and Oak. And that really is just for students who are enrolled in the law school program and the alumni of that program. So, and they use a different platform that's very specific to law advising. And so that program is called 1220. I don't know if there's any law students on the call today. So, I talk to all sorts of students all the time about looking for an internship or looking for a job, and it's tough for everybody. And I think sometimes international students get discouraged thinking that it's so tough for them, but it's easy for everybody else. And it's not. It's a tough process for everybody. And we're here to help as much as possible. And but it is, in fact, though, it is tougher for international students. So I'm not going to lie to you. It's and the reason why is obviously there's some visa restrictions when you're applying for positions, and then you're looking for companies that are open to sponsoring for H-1B visas in the long term if you're looking for a job here in the U.S. And oftentimes there's language barriers, and you might be struggling or maybe feeling a little less confident in doing some networking and interacting with employers because maybe you're feeling self-conscious about your language skills. But this is something that has come up over and over. And so I thought we'd just talk about some things that can hopefully improve your chances of finding that internship or finding that full-time position. So my first bit of advice for improving your chances is start early. It takes a long time for everybody, and most of the companies that hire oftentimes are planning way in advance, almost a year in advance of when that internship or job would start. And so they typically hire and recruit in the fall for positions that will start next summer, whether that's an internship or a full-time position. So there is a smaller recruiting season that takes place in sort of the January, February window, but most of the jobs, I'd say probably 60–70% of the companies are looking to hire in the fall for positions that would start next summer. So start early. And oftentimes they start posting those positions in August and September. We always host our career fair in mid-September. So we had that a couple weeks ago. And then companies are starting to schedule those interviews now. And those will go until, end of October. And they like to sort of wrap up all of their hiring by about Thanksgiving break. So they'll try and have those offers out to students and accepted by about mid to late November. So, but if you haven't found anything at that time, all is not lost. Don't panic, because there is that season again that starts in the spring. So those companies will start posting positions at the end of December, and into January. We always have our career fair in the spring in mid-February, and then companies like to meet students at the career fairs and then schedule those interviews following that. So towards the end of February and into March. And there, companies are looking really to wrap up that recruiting period by about spring break. So it goes a little quicker in the spring, but so definitely don't panic if you haven't gotten anything here this fall or it doesn't look like things will pan out. There is always the spring semester, but it's always good to leave yourself a little bit of extra time. And one of the reasons why we always say start really early, especially for international students, is that you'll need to file paperwork for CPT, which is the work visa that you'll need to have for an internship. And that takes, I'd say, allow for about a month for that paperwork to get processed. And then paperwork for OPT, which is the visa that you'll need to work full-time when you graduate, that takes about 3 months. So if you can get the job offer earlier and then you apply for those, either the CPT or the OPT, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time for all of that to get processed. And that is not paperwork that UMKC processes. That we have to send it to the federal government and they process it. So it's a little bit out of our control. We can kind of speed up the CPT a little bit, but the OPT, We're just kind of dependent upon the government to get that turned around, hopefully as quickly as possible. But so start early. That's my best piece of advice. And then, and if you have the chance, it's always good to do an internship. And the internships are good for so many reasons, because many companies use that internship as a tool to sort of see if you'll work out for the full-time position. So they like to hire their interns, and then they want to convert their interns to full-time hires. So oftentimes the best way to get the full-time job is to get the internship. But even if you're looking at an internship that maybe isn't a direct link to a full-time job, it just gives you valuable experience. It puts something on your resume that sets you apart from some of the other students applying. So the internship can be really, really valuable. The nice thing for most internships these days, they're paid. So you would probably anticipate working full-time for a period of about 8 to 10 weeks is typical. Every once in a while, we'll see a 12-week internship. And they typically take place in the summer. And like I said, it's really just a great way. Oftentimes at the end of the internship, the employer brings you in and says, hey, we like you, you're doing a great job. We'd love to offer you a full-time job when you graduate. And so maybe you graduate the next spring, and that way you go into your senior year and you already have a job and it's already set. And so that's really what we're hoping for, and that's the ideal timeline. But like I said, if you don't get the internship, it's not all is not lost. There's other ways that you can get some experience, and we'd love to talk with students on a one-on-one basis to find out what's best for you. It might be doing a research project, it might be doing some volunteer work, it might be some sort of micro internship, more projects that we can work with you and work with some of our employers to get that experience for you. And the next thing to work on is your resume and cover letter. And the thing with these, they need to be perfect. And if you're applying for a job here in the US, they need to be in a US format. And so we see a lot of resumes from some of our international students, and they're really formatted more in the way that's typical of their home country, which isn't necessarily the format that looks appealing to a US company that, they just have expectations that a resume is going to be set up in a certain way. So definitely come in and work with us. I have an example here that I can show you. This is a pretty standard looking resume, nice, neat format. This is the type of thing that a US-based recruiter would anticipate. A resume would look something like this. So the name's up at the top with your contact information. You don't always have to include your street address anymore, so don't worry about if you don't feel comfortable putting that on there. Education goes up at the top. If you've got any technical skills, that might go up near the top. If you don't have a lot of work experience, you can also have a section that says something like relevant coursework and list some of the upper level classes that you've taken as a way to really showcase some of the skills and training that you've received. If you do have work experience, then that goes below. And then you might have some student organization, student leadership roles, volunteer work that you could create a section at the bottom. So it needs to be 100% perfect in terms of punctuation, spelling, grammar, and consistent formatting. And this is something I hear all the time from the recruiters and hiring managers, is that they really, really expect this. And so a lot of times students are like, well, it's pretty good. And especially if English isn't your native language, I know that sometimes that can be particularly challenging, but just have send it to us via email, schedule an appointment. We're always happy to take that final look at it just to make sure, so that, we'd hate to see you disqualified because there was just a slight spelling typo on your resume. So we can help you out with that. The other thing to think about when you're putting all of this together, when you're out talking to people at a career fair, when you're putting your resume together, when you're writing your cover letter, it's important to kind of understand what's important to the recruiters when they're hiring. And a lot of times we think it's all about our technical skills, what we've learned in college, how prepared are we to step in and do the job tasks. But oftentimes what employers are more interested in is some of the softer skills. So we hear this over and over and over again for everybody, not just our international students, but everybody, good communication skills. And so are you a good writer? Can you carry on a professional conversation? So good communication skills is really top of every employer's list of what's important. And because they also understand that if you don't have strong communication skills, then maybe they're not going to feel comfortable having you send emails out to customers or clients that they're worried might have some spelling errors or some typos and might not be a very good reflection on the company. So they're thinking in terms of, how well or will your communication skills really hold you back in being successful in the job. So definitely work on the communication skills, but they also want to know, how do you work as part of a team? Here in the US now, most work is done, at least on some level, as part of a team. So do you get along well with others? Can you collaborate? Do you also have the ability, though, to step up and take some leadership roles at times? Because they're also looking for people, not just to do that first job that they're hiring you for, but they want to hire people that they can promote. So somebody that, in a year or two, maybe can lead a project, and then maybe next step would be to lead a team, and then the next step to lead a department. So they're looking for somebody that can grow in a leadership role within the company. And that's why you've probably heard them talking about this, if you've had a chance to talk to any of the recruiters, that they're really interested in that sort of leadership potential. And I know sometimes students have a hard time figuring out ways that they can really show that they have that potential. And maybe you're in a student organization and you've been elected to be the president or vice president or one of the leadership roles. And that's fantastic. That's a great way to talk about leadership. But sometimes, you didn't either get that role or you didn't apply for it. So how can you talk about leadership when you don't necessarily feel like you have a lot of leadership experience? And really think of ways that maybe you stepped up as part of a student organization or as part of your team work that you've done in a class, and said, I'll take the lead on this. I'll take charge of that. So it doesn't always have to, or if there's a program or an event, you can say, hey, I'll coordinate it. I'll see if I can line up some speakers. So it doesn't have to be big, huge leadership, but it's that sense that, standing up and saying, hey, I'll take that on. I'll be responsible for that. You can think of it in terms of that. You can also think of it in terms of sort of leading yourself and leading your own professional development. So you could talk about, you recognized that to really do well in a certain profession, you were going to need to get some type of certification. So you took it upon yourself to sign up and complete a certification program in addition to your coursework. Well, that shows that somebody that you have initiative, that you want to move into a leadership role, and that you're preparing yourself for it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can talk about leadership. And all of this, good communication skills, the ability to work in teams, and the ability to take some responsibility in a leadership role, all kind of wraps up and shows that you'd be somebody that would be easy for a manager to supervise, that you'll do a good job with them, that you'll take on some new roles and some new challenges. And that's really what most employers are looking for. My next point, and people hate it when I say this, but this is so valuable, network. And I think that this is more valuable for our international students here and not just here. I mean, this is everywhere. You need to go and network. It is more difficult for a company to hire somebody that needs to have H-1B sponsorship than to hire somebody who is authorized to work here in the United States. It's more paperwork, there's fees associated with it. So you need to have somebody who knows you and is saying, hey, I talked to this student at the career fair and they seem so sharp. They will need sponsorship, but I think that this student is worth it. So if you just apply, they're just looking at your resume. They don't know anything about you. They don't know you've got great communication skills. They don't know that you've got a good personality. They're just looking at a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, maybe they can assume that, maybe where you did your undergraduate degree, maybe where some of your work experience is. They make assumptions that you would need sponsorship, and they can just say, you know what, we've got some other candidates we're going to look at, and we just don't want to go through the hassle of submitting all the paperwork for it. And so it's easy just to be not considered. But if they know you, if they've had a chance to have a conversation with you and see and understand what you would bring to their organization, then oftentimes they don't really have a problem with going through that extra effort. So you do need to network. You need to, and as much as possible, that networking needs to be face-to-face communication or Zoom, virtual face-to-face, so that they can have that connection to you, that they can feel like they're really getting to know you. And I cannot stress it enough. This is what works in finding internships and jobs. I have seen so many students come into our office and say, I've submitted 200 applications and I haven't heard anything. And yet then I also talk to students who say, I talked to 5 companies at the career fair and one of them invited me for an interview right away. You should be focusing the bulk of your efforts in the networking piece of this and not on just the applying electronically. So now, networking doesn't have to be super scary. We here in Career Services are trying to create opportunities for you to do networking easily. So career fairs are a great way to do some networking because they want to talk to you. You know they want to talk to you. It's nice short conversations, but it's a way for them to look you in the eye and ask you some questions and get to know you. So that's one way. We have info sessions where we bring companies in and they host events and they're hosting all sorts of these things virtually. And again, it's a way for you to introduce yourself, to have a little conversation with them. We host workshops where we bring professionals from the community in. And again, just, maybe start out by just chatting, putting a question in the chat box, and that way they associate your name with the question and your interest in their organization. Maybe stay after the workshop for a couple minutes and just have a conversation with them then. Minimally, follow up with a little message on LinkedIn and just ask, tell them you really enjoyed their perspective in the workshop and you'd like to follow them on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be a big conversation. Sometimes it's just the little connections that can help too. So participate in those events and then follow up with the speakers is a really easy way to get started with your networking. If you have a presenter that comes into your class, and I know a lot of our professors will bring people from the professional community in to either guest lecture or to share their perspective on a specific topic in a class. And again, follow up with them. If it's in a live class, which I know we don't have very many of those here this fall, but that'll change. If it's a live class, go up afterwards and introduce yourself and just let them know that you appreciate them being there and you were interested in what they had to say. If it's a virtual class, perhaps stay a couple minutes afterwards and do the same sort of thing. And again, if you don't have the opportunity, at least follow up on LinkedIn and tell them how much you appreciated their speaking in your class that day. Another thing that you can try is going to LinkedIn and just doing a search of maybe some alumni from UMKC who work at a company that is interesting to you, to see if maybe they would be willing to have a quick Zoom conversation with you, or when we're back to normal, maybe a face-to-face meeting. Of course, always be polite, be professional. It's really more about them and being curious about their experience rather than of course, you wouldn't want to ask them for a job or anything like that, but ask them about their own career and their own experience. Ask them if they have any tips or suggestions that they could provide for you that might make you a stronger candidate if you were applying for a job within their organization. That would be fine. So, but this, I know I keep saying this, but this is what will help you get a job, and most quickly. So I really highly encourage you. And again, if you're feeling uncomfortable with it, if you have some questions, if you don't know where to start, come in and talk to us. Schedule an appointment, and we can help you out with that. To schedule an appointment, I'm hoping that all of you are familiar with Handshake. Handshake is the platform that we use to post internships and positions, where we post all of our events, our career fairs. You can go in there and register. You can also then use Handshake to schedule an appointment with somebody in our office. It's really easy. If you haven't been on there yet, it's umkc.joinhandshake.com. You just sign in with your SSO and you're in. Everybody already has an account in Handshake, and you just merely need to go in and activate it, because we upload all of our UMKC students into Handshake. That's not visible to anybody until you go in and activate your account, but you should be in there already. And it only takes a couple minutes to get it started, and then you go in and start looking for jobs here in the Kansas City area and really around the world. But maybe you don't want to stay here in Kansas City when you graduate. Maybe you're hoping to find something in San Francisco or Chicago. You can search all sorts of jobs. There's tens of thousands of jobs in Handshake, and not all of them are right here in Kansas City. But if you want to stay here, we've got lots and lots of opportunities for students here in Kansas City also. You can search in Handshake for jobs and internships by whether that company is willing to sponsor or H-1B visas, but don't limit yourself to those, because sometimes the companies will check the box that says they don't sponsor, and yet, they always make an exception here and there. So really first look for those companies that are interesting to you, and feel free to apply for them. But again, if you're applying for a position, try and see if you can find a human being within that company, maybe going again to LinkedIn or reaching out to somebody in our office, so that you could also send an email to somebody, a person, and see if you could schedule a conversation just to learn more about the company or more about that opportunity, just so that it's not just applying electronically again. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is this tool that we just acquired, and we're working right now with the company to get it all set up and ready for you. And it's called Interstride. And this will replace Going Global, which is a tool that we have had for a number of years that kind of gives a little bit of information and tips for international students hoping to find a job here in the United States. But when we saw the demo for Interstride and what it can do, we were just blown away. It's so much more robust. It has just wonderful information and wonderful opportunities on it. So we'll be launching it to you all in mid-November. And so be watching out for, we'll send you emails and let you know. But we're really, really excited about it. Now I have a couple screenshots that I want to share with you about some of the really wonderful features it has. So let me see if I can pull that up. So here you can see, it looks, if you've used Handshake, it looks a little bit like Handshake, but it's really specifically tailored for international students. It was designed by a group of international students who felt that platforms like LinkedIn didn't really address all of the needs that they were having. So this is created by international students for international students. They really understand what some of the challenges are, and they've come up with a wonderful platform. So you can go in, you can go and do some networking, you can look for jobs if you want to learn more about types of companies maybe that sponsor or how you could best position yourself. They've got a wonderful repository of a wide variety of resources. But say you wanted to do some networking, because networking is important. So you could click on that and it'll take you to a page that looks something like this. And so maybe you're a student from Lebanon and you want to connect with some students who maybe are from your own home country and find out what their experience has been and what's worked for them. So you can do a search by country of origin. You can do a search by maybe your dream company is to work for Apple. You could do a search by that, and it'll show you a number of people, not just UMKC people, but people across the country, around the world, who might be a good person for you to reach out and do some networking. Everybody in this repository has some international experience. Either they themselves were an international student or they have worked internationally. So this is a group that's really going to be friendly and open to having those conversations with you. And so really wonderful place to start doing some of that networking and seeking out mentorship. The other thing that you can do within Interstride is it has its own job board. And this is in addition to using Handshake. So it's one more place, but this is a repository of jobs that are very open to hiring international students. And it's companies around the country. So again, if you want to stay here, there'll be some opportunities in Kansas City. But if you're thinking, oh, I want to move to Florida, you can search for companies and positions that are open to hiring international students in Florida. And so this is something that students come to us all the time. It's like, can you give me a list of companies that are open to sponsoring? And it's sometimes hard for us to come up with that list, but Interstride has already done it. And this is one of the pieces that I've done. So I'm excited for you guys to be able to access all of that. And I think that's pretty much everything I had. So I thought maybe leave some time for questions because I think it's usually there's lots of questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute and so I can see you all and open it up for questions.
Okay, can I go?
Yeah, please.
So what happened, especially this semester, was during the fall career fair, maybe because we had a little limited amount of slots or sessions with companies, and we especially I missed opportunities for interaction with a few of my dream companies that came to our college. Also, I was a little late to sign up for the slot, so I missed the slots. Is there any way that you'd suggest I can approach these companies with?
Absolutely. So I don't know if you all were able to attend the career fair. We had to do a virtual career fair this fall, which is quite a bit different than the in-person ones. And how it worked is you register in Handshake, and then once you register, you sign up for a 10-minute time slot to meet with the company. And yes, some of the more popular companies, those time slots filled up right away, and then there's just not any more opportunity to meet with that company at that event. But just as you were somewhat frustrated because you weren't able to find that time slot for the companies are somewhat frustrated because they're limited also in the number of students that they could talk to. Maybe at a career fair they talk to 200, but at an in-person career fair, but at the virtual, they're only able to talk to maybe 50 students. So they've already reached out to us and said, feel free to share our contact information. We'd love to talk to students in addition to those that we talk to at the career fair. So send me an email. Let me know what companies you're interested in, and I can see about getting you some contact information so you can reach out to them directly.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Tess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I actually can't talk right now because I'm in the library, so I just wrote it in the chat. If you check the chat, and I'll mute myself again.
All right. Let me. There it is. Would you recommend students about to graduate and enter their OPT visa to apply for an internship program under their OPT, given that many firms only hire on? So if you're about to graduate, it depends. It depends on the internship, whether you can use OPT for it. And part of the challenge is and some companies and organizations don't want to hire somebody who's just graduated for an internship. They want to hold those open only to students who are still in the process of going to school. So some internships wouldn't even be available to a student who had just graduated or who is just about to graduate. If you use your OPT for an internship, if you are able to, it does decrease the amount of time that you can, for non-technical roles, non-STEM roles. Your OPT is only good for a year. For those of you who are in STEM roles, there are extensions, so it winds up being about 3 years. But especially if you're in a non-technical role, if you use your OPT for a 3-month internship, that takes 3 months off of that 1 year availability to work in a full-time position. And then that has challenges because, companies are hoping to hire somebody for more than, say, 9 months, and thus you might have less chance of finding a position. If the internship didn't automatically convert to a full-time position, you would have less chance of finding a full-time position. So it's a challenging one. Better by far if you could find a full-time position right away, rather than going the internship route. And come and talk to us, and we can see if we can help out. And we might even, maybe we can give you early access to Interstride also, and we can see if there might be some opportunities that we could identify through the Interstride application that we weren't aware of ourselves. So I know it's kind of a challenging one.
Regarding the Interstride, coming to the Interstride part, would we be like given out an email or some notification regarding the availability?
Oh yeah. Because I desperately want you guys using this. It always makes me sad when we buy software and nobody uses it. So, so this is definitely, I will hound you. You will wish that I stopped sending out emails. So I apologize in advance, but if you all register right away, then my pestering will be shortened. No, we will be sending out emails. We'll be working with the ISAO office to get the word out about it. And then it'll also be accessible through Handshake. So if you go into the resources tab in Handshake, you'll be able to see it there. And so we're targeting November 15th as our launch date, where everything's ready to go live. It might be ready before then, but it should definitely be there and ready. So if by chance you miss the emails, then just go and you can find the link in the resources tab in Handshake and still access it there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I found an internship that is related to my major, and it says on the website that it is a volunteer-based, unpaid internship. So I was wondering if it is still necessary to apply to CPT or not.
Usually, yes. Especially if it's a formal internship. It doesn't necessarily matter whether it's paid or unpaid. So usually, yes. There are some volunteer activities that you would do that wouldn't need CPT. I would say in general, for all things CPT, go and talk to somebody in the ISAO office, because they just are more knowledgeable about the sort of the ins and outs of the OPT and CPT, and you just want to make sure that you're following the rules. So my best advice is to talk to them, but probably you would need to apply for CPT for it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Cass, I have a question. So if we want to make an appointment with you guys, is there any specific person that we should contact?
No, I think anyone in our office, actually, we have quite a bit of experience, all of us, working with the international students. If you're welcome though to pick somebody that you maybe have met with and feel more comfortable with. If because you've met me on this, you would rather meet with me, definitely look for a time slot when I would be available. And I have availability to students across campus, where some of the career coaches are really specific to either the block school or linked to the career services office that services everybody but the block students. But I'm here for everybody.
Great.
But I have a little less availability than some of the people who are full-time doing career coaching. So it might take a little bit. You might have to schedule an appointment with me a little farther out. So it's up to you. But yeah, you can schedule an appointment with anybody.
That's great. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
So I'm at block school, and I wanted to apply for CPT, and I had the job offer, but they didn't. I don't know. for some reasons I saw that I cannot do that and I need to wait 1 semester. Is it true? Is there any other different process for me to apply for CPT? Do I need to take any class or something?
So it depends on when you started with.
I'm a transfer student. This is my first semester here.
Yeah, so usually you have to be here for a year before you can use your CPT. Now, if you've received an offer for an internship now that will take place next summer, you should be able to start the paperwork, although maybe they'll want you to wait until next semester, just because you'll still have plenty of time to do it at that time. But there is a sort of a blackout window where you can't do an internship. I don't even think it's a full year. I think it's 9 months that you have to be in the country 9 months before you can do an internship.
Well, I have been in the country for a long time, but this is my first semester at UMKC. I graduated from community college. I don't know how it works.
Have you talked to somebody in the ISAO office about it?
I have not. And I know, would it be, should I talk to them or should I talk to Blog School Career Services? Because I talked to my advisor and she told me that information that I need to check.
Yeah, I would definitely go and talk to somebody in the ISAO office because they'll be able to verify that you studied at another school, that you've been in the country, that you'd be eligible for the internship. So, and the Career Services office wouldn't have that information. Now they can help you get information to verify that you have the offer for the internship, but of course, you know, we make it a little bit more work that you have to deal with both of us. But in order to get the CPT authorization, you would have to talk to somebody in the ISAO. Okay. ISAO. I have a hard time saying those letters. So.
I know, right? Me too. I had the same stuff, the same problem. So next year I'm gonna be a senior. Do you think it's gonna be too late for me because you were talking about applying earlier and finding a job early?
Yeah, so you know, it depends on what your internship is. So you know, if you get an internship for this next summer, then that's great. And if it's a company that internship is going to convert directly to a full-time job, then you go into your senior year and you already have a full-time job offer all lined up. Even if you don't have that job offer though from the internship, that internship would still help you qualify and be a good candidate for the full-time position. I would say start looking for your full-time position. So if you're a junior, you know, obviously you'd want to be looking for internships now, but I'd say starting spring semester and into the summer, you should start aggressively looking for full-time positions also. Just because it does take a little longer, you do need to do that networking as well as applying for positions. And just in case the internship doesn't lead to a full-time offer, you want to make sure you have a backup plan. So I'd say you're still okay for time. You're more than okay for time, but don't wait. Yeah. Don't wait until like November of your senior year or worse, April of your senior year, which you just have so little time and fewer opportunities the longer you wait.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Tess. I really appreciate your time and everything.
Yeah, I hope we can chat one-on-one sometime soon. So feel free to schedule an appointment.
And we can do that through handshake, right? With you.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Tess, one more question about OPT and CPT. Do I need to be physically present or visit the campus to receive my OPT, CPT, or can I do it from anywhere?
I'm assuming you can do it virtually.
Okay. What if I move to someplace else? can I?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you should be able to do all of that virtually. I don't think that you need to come into campus and physically be there to do that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Could you also please confirm if your email is supranant@umkc.edu?
Yes, and that's exactly right. And that I have a long, unusual name myself. So my last name is, I'll put it in the chat box in that way. That
Okay.
way you can all just copy
Because
and paste it.
in the directory it shows your name as Supranant Teresa.
Yes, my full first name is Teresa. I just go by Tess
Okay.
for short. Yes, and you have spelled my name correctly, so everybody should be able to see it there. If you don't see any availability on in Handshake for an appointment, you can send me an email. But usually the fastest, easiest way to schedule something is through Handshake. So email as a last resort for scheduling an appointment. But
Okay. I mean, regarding our discussion about applying, getting contact info from the companies from virtual fair.
for that, send me an email.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
My name is Milton Gomez. I'm a PhD student at UMKC, and this is my third year as a PhD student. I am a graduate teaching assistant, but my funding ends at the end of this school year. Then I'm going to be given 2 years to write my dissertation, and I was wondering, and when is it too late for me to apply to get an internship or a job on OPT? Should I start applying at the end of my second year? Because sometimes dissertations might take longer to write or less to write. So sometimes that confuses me because I just don't want to wait for too long or apply too early.
Yeah. You can, there's no specific time when you have to do an internship. And you can do more than one. So I would say apply earlier. And worst case scenario, then maybe you have time to do a second internship. And rather than putting it off too long and then maybe not being able to find one or not having time based on how quickly you finish your dissertation.
Okay, so I can apply to internship on campus, given my F1 visa has limitations for me to work off campus, right?
Well, so your F1 visa allows you to work on campus, so you can do research. You could have a part-time job on campus. Your CPT.
OPT. I'm an English student. I am not a STEM student, so I think it's OPT what I get.
So you should have CPT
now.
also. All students should have CPT and OPT. So
Oh,
CPT
okay.
would allow you to do an internship off campus and get paid, or not paid, but do a formal internship off campus. And then OPT is what allows you to work full-time in your profession once you graduate. So,
okay.
So you should have both. So yeah, you would use if you wanted to get an internship off campus, then you would need to use the CPT for that. If you're looking at doing a research position or working in a university department here on UMKC's campus, then you would not need to use CPT for that. That would just be part of your F1 visa.
Okay, thank you.
It's super confusing, and when in doubt,
it is.
Ask and get clarification. Either come in and talk to us in Career Services, but really in terms of visa, the best people to talk to are the ISAO people.
Okay, thank you very much.
And it's confusing for everyone. So
okay.
Make sure you get good answers from people who are really knowledgeable. And like I said, the best people for visa questions are ISAO.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
You guys have had great questions.
So, Des, I would like to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for helping us. I know that you have a really busy schedule, but this was so great and important for us. I'm so glad. And I really hope in the future when Interstate turns allowed to us, I really hope maybe we can do another workshop and with you guys and ISAO together, because I know that sometimes we lose opportunities because of we don't know how to do and we don't know the information. So thank you so much. I would like to say thank you for our participants on the Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter that enjoy our call. And we are recording, we are gonna put on YouTube if anyone wants to see again. And yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and really, anything we can do to help, because I know it is challenging. So that's why we're here. We're here to help you get through this and find those opportunities. So please reach out.
Thank you.
All right. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. You
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. See you.
Bye.
Okay. What should I do now?